happiness has become the buzzword of the 21st century modern man. Wherever you look, wherever you read, whatever TEDx video you want to watch, everyone's talking about the same thing. Top tips to leading a happier life. The most viewed videos online, whether short clips or long lectures or podcasts, they are usually people, interviewees, scholars, leadership managers, influencers, scholars in positive psychology. They're all talking about the same thing, how to be a happier person. Yet I have found in almost all of this research, very few of them will dare to ask the awkward question, to address the elephant in the room. What is the awkward question? Does this world even offer happiness? Is it right to even search for happiness in the world as we know it today? And if the answer is no, what's the alternative? Surely the alternative is misery and depression. As a Muslim, we also ask the same question. Should we be pursuing happiness in the life of this world? Furthermore, does this world offer happiness as we understand it defined in Western literature today? Well, when you look into the book of Allah, and here's where it gets interesting. First of all, how does Allah Jalla Jalaluhu speak about the life of this world? He said, Ya ayyuhal insanu, innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqih. Oh man, you are restlessly toiling towards your Lord and you will meet Him. According to the book of Allah, this world is a home of restlessness, labor and toil. So that is how Allah speaks about this world. Toil, labor, restlessness, hardship. And on top of that, you don't find the word sa'ada, happiness, mentioned at all in the Quran. Interesting. Only in one context. And that is the context of Jannah. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu said, on the day of judgment people will come and no one will speak, only with the permission of Allah. Some will be miserable and some will be happy. As for those who are miserable, they will be thrown into hell and they will be sighing and gasping in pain. And then Allah says later on, وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ سُعِدُوا فَفِي الْجَنَّةِ. And as for those who are destined to be happy, they will be in Jannah. So the only time happiness is mentioned in the Quran is in which context? Jannah. And that in of itself is a powerful and profound message to humanity, that the happiness of perfection that people are pursuing is not offered by this world. It is only an offering that can be found in Jannah. So bearing in mind how the Quran speaks about dunya, hardship, toil, labor, and bearing in mind how sa'ada, happiness, is only ever mentioned in Jannah, does this mean that life today does not offer any joy? Now we're going to focus on the details, because our religion is massively practical and incredibly realistic. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has given you a very clear recipe for those who are searching for it. In the book of Allah, in Surah An-Nahl, chapter of the bees. In the clearest, in the most unequivocal, in the most unambiguous of words, Allah Almighty said, whoever works good deeds, min dhakarin aw untha, whether male or female, that's condition number one. Al-hasanat, good deeds. Condition number two, wa huwa mu'min, whilst having iman, whilst being a person of faith. What is the outcome? Equals, we will cause them to live a good life. Then Allah says, and we will give them their reward in full in the hereafter because of what they used to do. So that is the equation. The doing of good deeds, like your presence here in the masjid, praying and benefiting from an Islamic talk, whoever does good deeds, plus Iman, having faith in Allah that you preserve, equals you lead the good life. And notice how Allah does not say, we will give him happiness. He did not say, we will give him sa'ada, happiness in the life of this world. He didn't say that. He said, we will give him a good life. You see, as common as it is to use this word happiness today, even the non-Muslims now are losing interest in that word. And they're saying it's a little bit overused. And in fact, we should be searching for something a little bit more realistic than happiness. And one of those scholars is a man called Martin Seligman. Professor Seligman, he is the founder of a science called positive psychology. Positive psychology is that branch of psychology that focuses on the study of happiness. So he is a reference, he's an authority in the field. And he said, these are his words, I actually detest the word happiness. And I believe that it is so overused by people today, it's been rendered meaningless. And then what he essentially says, and I find this massively interesting, he says happiness is just a feeling like any other feeling that goes up and down many times a day. He says happiness is just a mood. When something good happens to you during your day, you're happy. And when something bad happens, you're miserable. It doesn't mean you are a happy person in life or a miserable person in life. It goes up and down many times in life. Tens of times. You have a nice, lush, warm meal in front of you, you're happy. You go hungry that day, you're sad. It doesn't mean you are a happy person in life or you are a miserable person in life. It just goes up and down many times in life. It's a mood like any other moods. So he said we need to think of terms that are deeper than happiness to describe the well-being of a human being. Do you understand what I'm saying? We need to coin a term that factors in the ups and downs in life. And he speaks in his research about flourishing, meaning despite the booms and busts of your everyday, generally speaking, you're flourishing. He said that's more realistic of a pursuit, to search for flourishing, not happiness. In other parts of his writings, he speaks about well-being. So despite the booms and busts of your everyday struggles, you're having a fight with your wife, a struggle with your husband, cash is a little bit low, whatever it may be, but generally speaking, you're well. Generally speaking, you are well. He said well-being. And in a third part of his research, guess what other word he uses to describe what we should be searching for instead of happiness? Take a guess. The good life. He said we should be looking for the good life. And that is what Allah promises when He said, whoever works good deeds, whether male or female, whilst having Iman, then we will cause them to live a good life. Let us now break down this equation. Two components that we've discussed, and I promise, the good life. Let us rewind and take it component by component. Whoever works good deeds, Allah said, whether male or female. Brothers and sisters, this is the first ingredient needed for someone who is looking to lead al-hayatu tayyibah, the good life. Your life is defined by hasanat, the search for good deeds. And if the only reward that you receive for doing good deeds is in the life of this world, it would be worth it. Imagine there is no Jannah. Imagine that there is no God that you believe in. Just the worldly gains of doing good deeds, of peace of mind, of spiritual growth, of happiness, health of heart, reduction of stress, sense of inner growth, inner expanse, joy, bliss, proactivity, motivation. Those worldly gains would be enough to justify the doing of good deeds because of the effects they have in bringing about well-being in a person's life, even without religion. And that's why Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, إِنَّ لِلْحَسَنَةِ ضِيَاءً فِي الْوَجْهِ وَنُورًا فِي الْقَلْبِ وَسَعَةً فِي الرِّزْقِ وَقُوَّةً فِي الْبَدَنِ وَحُبًّا فِي قُلُوبِ الْخَلْقِ. Doing good deeds, he said, illuminates the face and brings light to the heart and gives strength to your body and gives expanse to your provisions and places the love of you in the hearts of people. So what then of a Muslim who does good deeds in dunya and he believes in Jannah in the Akhirah? That is the first component for those who are looking for the good life, the doing of good deeds. What was condition number 2, brothers? وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, whilst having Iman. What is Iman? The topic that everyone is speaking about. The scholars have simplified it so nicely for us when they said Iman is this. It is something you say. وَتَصْدِيقٌ بِالْجَنَانِ, and a confirmation with your heart. And its application with your limbs. It grows with good deeds. وَيَنْقُصُ بِالْعِصْيَانِ, and it goes down with sins. That is Iman. You have experienced that. How do you feel? Sat in this gathering, hearing words that soften hearts and refine the soul, as you hear Allah said, and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a gathering that is visited by the angels and covered with their wings, and rahmat, the mercy of Allah descends upon it. How do you feel in this particular moment, sat in the house of Allah, hearing something beneficial? And compare that to how you feel after you have just finished listening to a musical track, or you just finished a Netflix series. How do you feel? Or finished your cigarette. How do you feel? The difference is enormous. Iman grows with good deeds and it decreases with sins. And wallahi, take this from me, dear brother, dear sister. Every joy in the life of this world is deficient if Iman is not in the equation. And similarly, every difficulty is manageable if Iman is present in the equation.